Okay, this video answer is going to focus mainly on this part right here, but I'll give you a hint for this one also. So we've got this function f of x. We're asked to examine the radicand to determine what values of x we will be allowed to take the square root of that radicand. And you're supposed to do it with graphing, but let's just take a look at how you might do it algebraically. Okay, so here's the radicand. Let's find out when it equals 0. Factors easily into 2x times x minus 4 times x plus 4. So these values, -4, 0, and 4, are when the radicand is equal to 0. Everywhere else, the radicand has to either be positive or negative. So pick test numbers in each interval. For example, to the left of -4, if you pick -5, this factor will be negative. That's what we mean right here. This factor will be negative. And so will this one. So the product of 3 negative factors will give us a negative value. If I pick a number like -1 in the interval from -4 to 0, I get negative times positive. So in this interval, the radicand will be positive. Similarly, for this interval, and to the right of 4, we get negative positive. So this interval right here, along with this interval right here, makes up the domain for f of x, because you can't take the square root of a negative number. To do it graphically, here's the graph of the radicand, and you can see it's positive above the x-axis from -4 to 0, and above the x-axis from 4 onward. And the little blue graph is the actual graph of the square root of that radicand. And I put some example numbers or sample numbers for g of x in this table. Okay, you can see it's undefined where the radicand is negative. Everywhere else, it's got a result. Okay, there you go. Now for part C, I'm not going to answer that one, but I'll show you what's going on. F of x is the graph of this red parabola. Part of it is below the x-axis, this part right here. The domain of that function is some negative value down here to infinity. But what happens when I take the absolute value? Everything below the x-axis got flipped above the x-axis. So the domain of this function right here now goes from 0 to infinity. I'm sorry, not the domain, the range of g goes from 0 to infinity. Okay, so for your problem where the original range of f of x was -3 to 4, picture a graph similar to the red parabola. What happens to the part that's under the x-axis? It gets flipped above the x-axis. So see if you can figure out what the domain or the range of the absolute value function is. Okay, there you go. Hope that helped. If you have any questions, go ahead and post a comment.